need to smile the whole time.
All right, well, I think we're good to go. This is a new experience for all of us, being able to connect with prospective students and their families through just the wonders of technology during a really, I think, weird time in our history. And so just hello, first and foremost, my name is Josh Jennings, and I'm the founding director at Global Impact STEM Academy. And welcome to our virtual info session event. We appreciate you taking the time out and to just be here tonight and spend some time with us as you learn more about our school and we share more about our school with you. And as you guys just have conversations with your own households and trying to determine whether or not this is a good fit for your son or daughter's education. While it's not typically how we hold our annual recruitment events, we're confident that we can still offer you an engaging experience tonight and highlight important information about attending Global Impact with the help of several of our staff members, students, and parents whom I'll introduce in just a moment. As you probably noticed already, your cameras and microphones at home are turned off and will remain that way for the duration of the session. Should you have any questions at any time, which we strongly encourage, please submit them by clicking the Q&A box at the bottom right of your Zoom window. We will either answer your questions live during our discussion or directly in the Q&A box. We also have some time scheduled at the end of the program to address any additional questions at that point in time. I'll also mention that we have some slides that'll come up at different times when we discuss different things. Don't feel like you have to write all that information down. They'll kind of pop up and go off as our panelists are talking and chatting. You will send, as an attendee here tonight, you will be receiving an email tomorrow with those documents that we're talking about. But I'll also mention that all that information is also on our website. I'll also say that if you have any technical issues during the session, please let us know in the Q&A box as well. And our technical team will do their best to help you behind the scenes. And so with that, we're going to get started. The reason, first and foremost, that we do these info sessions, we in the past have opened up our building for one night to all prospective families, and even community members who are interested in just learning more about our school. And it's always been just a really great event where our teachers have a number of activities that are spread out throughout the school building. And a number of our students are here. We have tables set up where we have student athletes and parents. It's an opportunity for prospective students to meet teachers and engage in conversation, but then also, see our building and walk through it and kind of get an idea of just the feel of being in the space. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we're unable to do that this year, but I will say we do look forward to still offering tours at some point. We're just handling that in a little bit different way this year, so that we can do it in a manageable fashion after the lottery this year, and we have our slated number of students that are coming in as 7th graders. We'll be more than happy, if interested, to set up one-on-one tour opportunities with parents and the prospective students to where they can come in the building and see it in action and get a feel for the space and talk to one of our staff members. And we'll do it in a very safe and socially distanced way, but it's just what we have to do in this particular moment in time in regards to what we're all facing. And I'll say that this info session right now that we're trying to do through Zoom this evening is something that we started, I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd year, where we just put together a group of panelists that were made up of teachers, students, parents, guidance counselors, and administrators of the school. And we just opened it up for questions. Our goal here is that you know as much as you can about the school to make the best informed decision for you and your child. I hate saying recruitment events because we're not trying to sell something to a family. We just want to inform families and make sure that all the questions, no matter what they are that you have, you get the answers to. And so there's no real questions that we shy away from. And I hope that you feel after this evening, you'll get honest and genuine answers from our panelists that are with us this evening. And I'll also add, even if after this evening, you see this video, or if you're one of the many who are watching this video, not live, but in a few days and it's archived, and you have some questions or you just want to talk to somebody one-on-one on the phone, call the school and say that you're a prospective student or prospective student's parent, and you would just like to talk to somebody about admissions process and enrolling their son or daughter in school here next year. And we'll be happy to spend as much time with you as we need, or that is needed for you to get the most informed information so that you can make the most informed decision for your family. Because we know it is tough. We know it is tough, and it's a big decision for many of you. And so with that, what I want to do now is just introduce our panelists that are with us tonight. And I'll first mention their name and then I'll let them introduce themselves. And so with that, Mr. Kilburn.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anton Kilburn, and I'm the middle school director, which is a fancy name of saying principal. I've been here at Global Impact for about 5 years now, a couple years as a teacher in the high school, where I taught plant and animal biotechnology and some CTE courses and biology as well. And then a few years now here as a middle school director. So a little bit of my history is that I taught for several years at Springfield City. And I really wanted to try to just do more projects, do more STEM, and embed a lot of those things. And so I came over one day for a visit, which turned into an interview, which turned into me just loving this school and really loving all the things that I was trying to do already was already here. And so it was an easy transition into this building and into the philosophies here at Global Impact. So that kind of answers why I came here. The second reason, though, about not only the programming, but was really just the people. As far as I could see, the kids had great relationships with so many of the teachers and the administrators had great relationships too. And that's a big focus here, is that we try to provide individualized instruction as much as possible, which means that we get to know each other and we build that safe environment. And so, yeah, my job here as the director is to support the teachers and the students and hopefully provide the best educational experience possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Mr. Kilburn. Ms. Trumbach.
Hi, I'm Jamison Trubenbach. I am the Chief Academic Officer at Global Impact STEM Academy, and my job entails working with students in a variety of ways. So I handle all of our state and district testing. I handle all of our special education services with coordination with our intervention specialist. I'm responsible for all of our 504s. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of this school since the origination in 2013 and have loved every minute of it. I was previously an intervention specialist at Southeastern and was looking for just something fun, a little more adventure and a little more challenge. And I definitely got that when I chose to come to Global Impact. And I am so excited that each one of you have taken the time out of your evening to join us today.
It's actually, Mrs. Trumbach's story is a little different than that. I actually sent her a job description that included just everything I could think of that I knew we'd need to do as a school. And she called me back in like 2 minutes and said I'd take the job. And I said, I haven't even offered it to you yet, and it didn't matter. So yeah, she's one of the few that have been with us from the beginning. Ms. Henry.
Hi, I'm Amy Henry. I am the CTE and STEM coordinator at the middle school, which means that I help with the ag programming in all of our 7th and 8th grade classes. I've been at Global Impact Middle School since it started 4 years ago. Prior to that, I taught business, high school business at Madison Plains and then in Hilliard for Toll's Career and Technical Center. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Dr. Pfister.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jill Pfister. I'm the College and Career Pathway Coordinator, which means that I work with the high school with the students who are participating in the College Credit Plus program and taking college classes while in high school. I work pretty close with them. I assist them with scheduling, advising. I work with the schools that the students want to attend as far as higher ed institutions. I also coordinate the study abroad program, the Global Scholars program, and I work with the Capstone program, which is a part of the senior year. My background is I spent 35 years at Ohio State, commuted to Columbus from Springfield, needed a change, and the school was having its birth, and I got involved at ground zero and participated and had a lot of background to bring to the school. So that's kind of where I came from.
And I'll say that Dr. Pfister has been with us from the inception of the school as well. It's just been instrumental in developing just our pathways in terms of helping students and families determine what's best for their kid, their son or daughter, and so based upon their goals and needs. And so just a great asset to the school. Dr. Hess.
Hi, I am Mana Hess, and I actually have kind of a all-encompassing role, it feels like this year. I'm a parent. I have 2 daughters that attend here. I have a 7th grader that just started this year, and then I also have an 11th grader, and she started in 8th grade at the beginning of the middle school when we had new classes for 7th and 8th grade. And I have also been working at Global Impact this is my 4th year. For the previous 3 years, I served as an internal substitute. Just with the way things work in this school, it's always kind of fluid. We have a lot of teachers that are working together and collaborating with each other. And it's been wonderful for me because as an internal substitute, basically I would show up a couple days a week and they would tell me what classes I was covering. Some days it's the middle school, some days it's the high school, some days I'm all over the place and I can get all my steps in running up and down the stairs. But this year, I'm lucky enough to be covering for the 8th grade science teacher for the entire year while she's on an extended leave. So I am in here every day enjoying these kids and having a great time teaching some science. So I have a background in physiology. I have a PhD in physiology and taught college level classes until I had my own kids. And so it's been really nice to get back in the classroom and really enjoy it. Thanks.
Yeah, and she told me the other day that there was no difference between 8th graders and college kids.
Absolutely not at all. No, especially these kids, because they're overachievers here.
All right, Mrs. Sanders.
Happy Friday Eve, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to BioResearch. I'm the BioResearch instructor as well as the high school ag advisor, one of them. I have taught all of the career technical and life science courses. I started with the school 7 years ago. Who wouldn't, as a very active teacher, want to be involved in helping plan a school with kids, teachers, everybody on the same page for the most part? Which has been really exciting, as well as I actually have 2 alumni. My first one graduated in 2019 and my second graduated in 2020, and they both took different routes, got 2 different total experiences out of the school. And so as a parent, it was exciting to watch. As a teacher, it was the most challenging opportunity to teach my own children with everybody else. So welcome to BioResearch. As you see, I got a lot of things glowing. There's a lot of equipment, and we work with a lot of different business partners.
Yeah, and I'll say Rachel has also taught the majority of our science classes here, being the first science instructor that we hired for Global Impact. And as we developed the programming each year, she just kind of moved up with those students, and so was able to experience all the courses within our sequence in our pathways. And so as it relates to anything in the high school, and if it's science, she's probably taught it, unless it's physical science or chemistry. And then you can bring in Ms. Clark for that. Mr. Williams.
Hi, I'm Brandon Williams. I teach 8th graders world history, which is a high school credit course. Before coming to Global Impact, I actually had 3 years of experience at Kenton Ridge High School teaching that same course. When they started the middle school, I had shown a lot of interest just following the school from its birth on and seeing the success that was coming from it. And I was very interested. I was really interested in the philosophies that I was hearing about education. I very much loved my time at Kenton Ridge. I was a Northeastern grad, so being a part of that district, I just saw that there was more room for growth here, more room to just challenge myself as a professional, but also just seeing what education could be, what I believe it should be. So it's been really great to see kind of the middle school grow and being a part of that. I've also been able to kind of help foster a theater program here that we have a great resource of the John Legend Theater that our students get to use. And we've been able to have a few good shows. And once COVID's over, we look forward to having another one. So it's been great. And I've really enjoyed my time here so far.
I will say the drama club and the theater and what you've been able to do is incredible. I'm glad we were able to have at least one showing last year. Everything kind of hit at once as you guys were getting ready to go on with the musical. And so felt bad about that, but felt really fortunate too that at a minimum, our parents were able to see the work that their kids and you guys had put into it. So I'd heard one of the messages came up. Ms. Clark was having some connectivity issues. Ms. Clark, are you there?
Yep, I'm back.
Okay, awesome.
My office, the internet sometimes. So I'm Mrs. Clark. I'm the high school counselor. Before I came here, I taught at South High School for 25 years. Chemistry, IB chemistry, biology, any science basically. I had Mrs. Sanders in school. I had Mrs. Pendergrass in school. When you're old enough, you can have a lot of people. I went to Springfield High and I taught for another 5 years, all the chemistries that they offered. And I've had my counseling license for a long time and I was ready for a change. And when they closed South down, I remember standing on the 3rd floor where my room was, looking out onto the parking lot here in this building and said, wouldn't it be neat to build a school where kids were taught the things kids need to learn? We weren't all worried about testing and we actually cared and did things the way that we think they should be. And this place has allowed me to do that. It's a great opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Hello, my name is Bobby Jones, and I'm the middle school counselor. I've been here for 4 years. The reason why I decided to come here is I just was looking for a new challenge. Just want to tell you a little bit about where I've been, where I worked previously. I worked at the Warren Correctional Institution for a year. I worked with inmates. I was a school counselor out there. And then I went and worked for DPS, Dayton Public Schools. I was there for a couple of years. And then I got a call from my internship supervisor. I used to intern at Springfield CTC, and that's where Josh Jennings was working at the time. So she said that he had an opportunity. I interviewed, and the rest was history. So I'm really fortunate to work here. It's a great place to work. There's a lot of positive people, and the kids are fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Jones. I remember when I was at CTC, he was doing his getting his hours in with the counselor there. He just had just an incredible energy, and just the way he was with students. Just one of those people you you want on your team. Is going to make everybody better. And so I'm glad you're here, Mr. Jones. Let's go to some students here. Gracie Perkins.
Hi guys, thanks for coming. My name is Gracie Perkins and I'm a junior here at Global. And I came here my freshman year, the year after they started bringing in 7th and 8th graders. So I applied my 7th grade year going into my 8th grade. I didn't get in, but I was on the waiting list, got in my freshman year. I was so excited, so I came right on in my freshman year. And my homeschool is Northeastern. And one of the main reasons I wanted to come to Global Impact was just because of the different learning style and the opportunities that was given to me to pursue something bigger, which is just like the college credits you can earn and some of the different science classes and CTE courses that they have.
Awesome. Thanks, Gracie. She is really active. Say a few of the things that you're actually involved in as a high school student at Clark State right now. Brag on yourself a little bit.
Okay, so at Clark State Community College, I'm technically like a full-time student since I take the minimum amount of credit hours there. And I'm in the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, and I'm also the Vice President of Service with that Honor Society, and I'm also part of the Student Senator and Ambassador program.
Awesome. Thanks, Gracie. And one more student, 8th grade student, Josie.
Hello. Thank you guys for coming tonight. So like he said, my name is Josie Jennings and I've been attending GISA for 2 years now. I'm proud to serve as our 8th grade FFA president and a proud member of the FFA. So I came to GISA because of the unique learning. I was ready for a change and the opportunities that GISA gives you that you wouldn't get if you were somewhere else.
And I'll say just in, complete disclosure here, Josie has seen this school from its inception as well. That is right. She is my daughter. So I was able to pull her in to be of a student perspective here this evening. And so she can give a lot of perspectives here as we work through this. So I think I've got all the panelists. I appreciate you guys with the introductions. And we do see questions coming in right now, and that is awesome. Keep those coming, and I'm making note of those, and we will try to hit on all of those as we work through this evening. I will tell you, I'll give you a quick overview of, and I'll try to make it really, really brief because there's a lot to unpack that just really makes our school different. So I'll do my best. Everybody says that I'm a little long-winded, as you can tell right now with me rambling right there. But the way the questions work, I have a lot of topics. We've done these info sessions for a while, and so therefore, we kind of categorize what are the frequently asked questions from the parents and the students that are looking to attend. And by doing this through the dialogue, we really feel like, and through conversations with our panelists, we really feel as though most of the information that you're looking for, and not all of it, there's no way that we can really cover all of it, but we really feel that we'll be able to work through it. And so some of the questions that are coming through, like what does CTE stand for, those who want to learn more about the study abroad program, we're going to hit on some of those as we work through some of these frequently asked questions here this evening. So I would encourage you to just keep the questions coming, and we'll make sure that we get to these or as much of these as we can here this evening. I'll also say that as we're talking about maybe one particular topic here this evening, and you want us to, maybe we said something that you want us to elaborate on, we'll try to do that in real time here as best we can. But if we can't, or we get off a little bit, apologize for it as we work through the technology. And if you see me right now, I'm looking over here at the chat board, as well as trying to look at the screen and the information that I have in front of me. So you've heard us talk about since inception. Well, our school opened its doors in 2013. Prior to that, we had a lot of community leaders who wanted to create something in Clark County, in Springfield, that students in other areas of the state had access to and opportunity for, but not that we really had access to here in our community and within our county. And so the idea to create an independent STEM school was formed with a lot of input from a lot of business and industry partners, a lot of community leaders, and a lot of higher ed partners as well. Early on, the major partners that had a lot of influence within our school were state legislators, as well as the Ohio State University, Battelle Memorial Institute, Wright State University, Clark State Community College, Springfield City Schools, as well as others. And what they came to, or what they concluded that they wanted to build at the time, there was only 4 independent STEM schools in the state of Ohio. And what it means to be an independent STEM school is basically that we operate independently from any other district, within the state. We are considered a public school option. The only difference is that we do not have any district boundaries. So any student within the state of Ohio is eligible to attend Global Impact. And we cannot make any type of admissions decisions based upon merit of the students. And we'll talk about admissions here and how the lottery works as we wrap up this evening. I want to make sure I get that part last, because I know that's a lot of questions that people have. But the difference with this independent STEM school was how it's laid out in legislation. Basically, these schools were developed to be pretty flexible and pretty nimble, and to be basically research and development sites for education. The idea was to challenge the norms that we see, to try to implement new ideas. And even if those ideas do not work, and that is completely okay. We have tried and attempted to implement a lot of grants from the state of Ohio and the Ohio Department of Education, and just ideas that we've had from research that haven't worked. And we've implemented a lot of things here and tried things here that have worked well. The main thing was that we wanted to develop a space and an opportunity where we were focusing on things like creative thinking and innovation and collaboration, those soft skills that are so important to our business and industry leaders in the state of Ohio, but then also develop skills not only for the careers and advanced careers that currently exist, but also for those advanced careers that do not exist yet. And so, STEM education is a workforce development initiative for the state of Ohio. And so what we were able to do here was, focus that in a little different area. And what we did was develop this school completely around the regional need as it related to the field of agriculture. And early on, we are not focusing as much on production agriculture as we were on the 90% of the other jobs that support that industry as it relates to energy, the environment, fiber, food and food science, and biotechnology and bioresearch. Those things and those principles and those courses are embedded into what students participate in here every day. And we use those things so that students can find relevance in what they do. We want to, as much as possible in everything we do, students to understand the why and what they're doing within their classrooms, and ask questions and challenge the normal way of thinking. And so we've created a culture and opportunity here to build upon that based upon those leaders. In 2013, we had 50 ninth grade students. And we were at Clark State in 2 classrooms. And the following year, we quickly grew to 170 9th and 10th grade students. And then we were fortunate to be able to be a part of a grant that funded much of the renovation of the former South High here at the Dome now for our space and our home where we're at. And that was the year that we had 9th, 10th, and 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And then let's see, a couple years later, I'm losing track of my years. The board really worked at what expansion opportunities were there for the school. And so the decision was made to move down to 7th and 8th grade and add middle school to our programming. And so that's been a really great decision. We've been really, really fortunate, I think, beyond most people's expectations here at the school in terms of what we've been able to achieve. I will tell you, we have not recently since COVID, but every year you will see, and every week, 4 or 5 groups of people that come from all over the state and all over the country. We've had a number of international guests who have been to the school to just learn more about what it is that we're doing, what things are working, and try to pull some things to maybe implement into their school districts. And that's really what being an independent STEM school, part of it is being about, so that others can come and learn what works, learn what doesn't work, and take that back. And so really just feel blessed at the opportunity to be here and to be part of this school. It's rigorous, it's fast paced, but I think you'll find that it's authentic and it's based upon relationships with our kids. And I think that'll be a reoccurring theme that you hear as we go through some things tonight. We are governed by an appointed board. We have representation from business and industry, higher education, and community leaders here that make up the governing system for how we work as a school. And so with that, I want to just kind of jump into some of the topics and the questions that we have here. And the first group of questions that I just want to focus on is just the teaching and learning and assessment at Global Impact. And I want to get the perspectives of all those who are on our panel here right now. And so let me start with, anybody can jump in at any time, any of you panelists, but let me start with the students. Describe for me, and maybe I'll go Gracie first, just what does teaching and learning look like to you here at Global Impact? How would you describe that to another student?
Yeah, so the learning is obviously very different. And so one of the things that I really enjoy is when we're learning, we do have a section of time, obviously, where we're learning. It may be lecture style, we may be looking at a presentation, but it's not just the whole time we're sitting down and focusing on a lecture. We learn by doing. And so that's a big thing that I like, because it allows me to not just look at a board and memorize all these facts, definitions, etc. I'm actually understanding the content, I'm comprehending, and I'm learning by doing. And so we have a lot of project-based learning where we learn by making things, building things, doing labs with the science classes. And with those, we have some mastery projects, some performance projects, and some practice projects, as well as different kinds of assignments. And so when learning, one of our kind of perspectives is that you can have more than one chance to try something. And so that's another big thing I like, because if you don't do as well as you wanted to do, you have that chance to fix it and do better, which is a good skill to have, because you need to learn resilience and you need to be able to know how to bounce back and fix some of the things that you need to work on.
Grace, you just hit on mastery learning. It's sometimes hard to explain, but the idea that you submit work and then you receive feedback and then you resubmit with that feedback based upon what you learned, so you get to the best possible outcome that you can for you. And that's the whole engineering design principles. That was a really great way to, I think, describing it. Josie, how would you describe teaching and learning here?
Well, kind of going back to what Mr. Kilburn had said earlier with your relationships with your teachers. The teachers are teaching you, but also trying to build a relationship with you first. They're not doing it for themselves to cover content. They're doing it for you so you can learn and you can grow because they want to see that happen in their students.
Great. Mr. Williams, give me a teacher's perspective.
So the one thing that probably comes to mind quickest is actually the discussion I had with Mr. Jennings when I was asking about the school. I had learned project-based learning, which was kind of a buzzword, it seemed like. And I came in and asked in the interview, so what's it look like? And the short answer that Mr. Jennings gave was, what some people might call project-based, I just call good school. And it's funny when, you or parents go to learn something, it's seldom in a seat, watching a screen, and having someone just wax on eloquently. It's hands-on. If you're a mechanic, any of the trades, or in nursing, there's so much more to the hands-on element. And as Gracie said, of course, we don't disregard direct instruction, but the goal isn't to become content experts, and that's not how we assess either. The majority of our assessment is really, how do you feel about your learning? I can give you a number of what you did, but do you honestly feel that you've learned this? And we're not penalizing if the student says, honestly, no. Then we're like, okay, where are the gaps? What do we need to fix? What do we need to address? How can we do it differently? And the idea of evaluating constantly our instruction, but as well as, our practices, like as far as the assessment that we're trying to use to gauge learning. It's an ongoing conversation. There aren't too many schools that are having that conversation of how do we evaluate our assessments continually, but we're actually pushed to do that.
So how does that look for a parent that's trying to understand? I'm used to A, B, C, D, and F. And I come into Mr. Williams' classroom. What can I expect to see as a parent with feedback on how my child's doing?
So the first thing is you will still see with what we've had this year, and we've changed it every year since I've been a middle school teacher. We still do have A, B, C, D, F, but that is not a concrete letter that you're going to carry with you forever. What it's really going to be is a gauge, so parents have some familiarity is where their student is in their learning, but there's going to be feedback attached to it. We use the learning management system, Google Classroom, where we're able to put feedback specifically on the product that students turn in. And they're going to see like our individual notes and, okay, how do we build on this? It's more of the idea of value added, where you are and then how are you growing?
Mm-hmm. Ms. Henry, also in the middle school, tell me about same thing for you. You see within your position, you're in all the classrooms really all the time. You're seeing all the kids. It's all over the place. Our schedules are kind of, we have a schedule, but pre-COVID, obviously our kids were everywhere. Kind of tell me about how that teaching and learning looks. How would you describe that to somebody who hasn't been at our school?
Do you mean like the typical schedule or?
Yeah, like just a typical day for a kid, like with, I think about how I use an example where, this is their schedule, but for an example, if we call it for a kid, it's like, oh, well, they're in English class in their schedule. They're actually in the science lab right now working on their English, that type of thing.
Yeah, so we embed a lot of what we do. So for instance, I teach ag, but I don't have an agriculture class where kids come on a specific time on their schedule. So the best way I can describe it is we take what our learning goals are and we might embed it into a number of classrooms. So instead of teaching soil science as a specific unit, I might work with a 7th grade science teacher and we might come up with a project that the students can do in science class. Or our math teacher was teaching about unit rate. And so we created an activity that had an agricultural flair to it. We're really, really known for blowing up the schedule. And so Mr. Williams knows this all too well. Mr. Jennings, Mr. Kilburn will call and try to find a student and say, what's the schedule today? I know what it's supposed to be, but where are kids at right this moment? So we do a lot of project time. So we'll, all get together as teachers, create a collaborative project, and say how much time can we commit each of our classes to completing this project. And so, oh, there we go on the screen. You can see some of our classes, but also just some of the projects. We try really, really hard to get our projects to be cross-curricular. And so projects that carry over from one class to another, so that students can see that it's not just about the one thing that they're creating, but it actually has a lot to do with them as a whole student and as a whole person.
Mrs. Sanders, and if you could please, you've been here since the inception, so you've been able to be part of and see a lot of the projects and things that have gone on, but also in terms of the teaching and learning, back to the original question, what's that look like for you? And I think you can think back to even when you were, within our first year and some of those projects we've done. How would you describe the teaching and learning here at Global Impact?
The first word when you asked that question, when everybody else was answering, I was thinking engagement, and not just engagement within the classroom, but also within the community. So how can we show the community that we want to be here and help and do some things, but also show the students how we can help, not just in our backyard, but also globally. So we've been able to do different projects with different groups within our school community or surrounding communities, but we also were able to do things with Ghana, for instance, where students have done some projects and raised money and sent glassware so that they could actually learn to be a scientist or work with science equipment. Currently, we're going to the juniors, or I think are hoping, we in bioresearch are going to work with some of the freshmen and do some projects with Honduras. So we're trying to show that engagement factor where it's being used in the real world. One of the projects I'm also doing is citizen science project with Fairchild Botanical Gardens and NASA. So equipment that you actually see right here is on the International Space Station, doing DNA studies and replicating DNA. And so students actually get to play with stuff that current people are using in everyday life.
Also, Mr. Kilburn, the assessment piece. Talk about that from an administrator's perspective.
Yeah, so we do have some typical like benchmark testing, like some map testing and things like that. But overall, assessment looks very different in every class. And so, for example, some of the assessment is through demonstration proficiency. So, for example, I spent the afternoon listening to Miss Henry's class hammer on birdhouses as I was having meetings because her classroom was right behind me. So, which is great, actually. I love to see that sort of stuff. But she's teaching shop safety, and she's doing a refresher with the 8th grade, and they learn how to use all the tools in the shop. And so they have to demonstrate those. So that assessment looks a lot different than just taking a test on how to operate certain things. There are a few just typical tests and quizzes, but a lot of times kids will demonstrate their knowledge through discussions, through presentations, through the process of doing a lot of products and different projects that they might do. So sometimes their product is amazing, sometimes not so much, but they're getting the components built in the whole way. That's part of like project-based learning. And so, for example, some of the 7th graders are doing movie trailers in order to learn not only some computer skills, but also to demonstrate their knowledge. Sometimes they're doing PowerPoints and different types of technology, especially in this season, but sometimes it's going out. For example, we did a project with pollinator gardens a couple years back, and we actually went over to Speedway Corporate, and the assessment piece there was the student had to pitch an idea. Speedway representatives came over and they heard the kids' ideas and they picked 3 to implement. We went over and we planted a bunch of pollinating plants on their campus, which was really neat. And so the assessment piece was actually making the idea, presenting the idea, and then following through the idea. So it looks different every unit, every class, how it does, but it's not like run of the mill, this is what you do. And sometimes kids, and a lot of times, students have choice. So they can actually use their strengths in order to demonstrate mastery or demonstrate learning in a variety of different ways.
Dr. Hess, a parent's perspective, how do you receive feedback? and how your child is doing. So you have a perspective as you're, obviously serving as a long-term sub, but even prior to that, from a parent's perspective, how would you describe the teaching and learning here to another parent?
I would say it's definitely not the traditional schooling setup that everybody has gotten used to, either starting in elementary school with the S's and the U's, all the way up through the traditional ABC and so forth. The fluidity of it is something I think for parents, they sometimes have a hard time getting their head around. How are you assessing my kid when what you're telling me is my child's being assessed a little bit differently than another child is? But I think that's actually the beauty of this program, is that the instructors are able to meet each kid at their own level and look for that growth from the beginning to the end of the semester or throughout the year. So for me, it's been you take a little bit of a leap of faith in thinking, okay, I believe in how you're going to do this assessment, and then you still get a grade card, you still get to see the feedback. I've always found all of the instructors to be very accessible to parents, to be willing to talk on an individual basis if there are any concerns, and so forth. But for the most part, it's very. Oh, my lights just went out.
You're not moving enough.
Sorry, gotta move. I'll talk in the dark for just a second.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a very, it's a non-traditional assessment, of course, but I always feel at the very end of the day that my kids are getting so much more out of it than they ever did in a traditional setting. And I'm gonna go turn my lights on.
Yeah, you turn your lights on. But no, I'll just add the piece that, it's very, to the parents here too, it's highly narrative based feedback. And so it's not just the letter grade. Matter of fact, we're using more letter grades this year because due to COVID and certain reporting things that we need to do for the state, we have to do some quarterly reports on where students stand. And so that's kind of changed some things for us based on what we have to do in our requirements for the state of Ohio. But in the past, it's just highly narrative based feedback in terms of where your son or daughter is, why they're there, what areas they need to work at, just in an effort to get the most possible growth out of the student as possible in a variety of areas, and not just related to the core disciplines. I want to talk too about just the climate and culture of the school. And so trying to get without with certain people maybe have not had the opportunity to visit and being here during the school day. What does it look like? Let's go back to our students. Gracie, tell me about what the feel is like in the building, what the school day is like for a student. Give your perspective on that.
Okay, so basically, when you walk in, you see it's basically like kind of like free flowing. You don't see a lot of people just like sitting at desks staring frontward towards the board. You see a lot of collaboration going on within the classrooms. With the classrooms, we have a lot of kind of like garage doors that open up towards the whole school, and some of the classrooms don't have doors, so it's definitely free flowing. You can go in and out, and I think a lot of the students, including me, enjoy going to like the lounges and working. And so definitely, like I said, open, very free flowing. It doesn't feel very structured. You go in, it feels like a comfortable space to be in. And we have a bunch of different lounges, and the classrooms are set up to be able to do like a lot of teamwork. And so I think the most important thing is that we enjoy learning because we are in a comfortable environment that's free flowing, and we have the freedom to leave if we want, and if we use that responsibly, to leave on our own if we need to. And so it definitely feels like we have that autonomy to be ourselves and be independent.
What do you mean by leave? I think a lot of parents are hearing this right now and said, what? You get the freedom to leave? What does that mean?
Well, obviously, some things can come up. If you need to go to the bathroom, the students are expected to use that responsibly. And if they need to leave, whether it be to go to the office to call a parent or use the bathroom, then they can do that responsibly. Also, sometimes you can talk to your teachers and say, hey, I really need to do this. Like, I need to go to another classroom. Let's fix something up. And then they'll be like, yeah, sure, that's fine. So obviously, the education is so important. You need to be in the classroom, but you can be independent and leave if you need to.
Josie, how about your perspective? I know things are different this year. You got to go through about 3/4 of a year last year of normal before some things got tightened up with COVID restrictions. But how would you describe the climate of the school and just the culture in general? We talk about culture a lot at the school. How would you describe it from a student when describing to other kids?
I think it's just overall welcoming. Like, you walk in the morning and the teachers are out in the hall smiling, welcoming you into the building. It just makes you want to be there and want to learn. Whereas if there wasn't welcome and to make you feel comfortable and safe, you may not want to be there. But I think Global Impact does a really good job of making you want to be there.
What about the freedoms? You know, Gracie talked about the freedoms. When people talk about certain student freedoms, what does that mean to you as a student?
It gives you freedoms as it gives you responsibility, like Gracie came back to.
Mm-hmm.
With the given freedoms here at Global Impact, you know, if you wouldn't be given those freedoms, some may want to do it just to rebel or some students. But when you're given those freedoms, you respect them, which makes you want to be responsible with your decisions. So like if you need to go out to the office or somewhere else at the school, I think the teachers, it builds trust. When they give you the freedoms and you respect them and you use your decisions responsibly, it builds trust between you and your instructors or your teachers.
There's a certain level of professionalism I know that we try to instill in our students as well. Part of it's dress code. You know, that's always, we get a lot of questions regarding dress codes. Hopefully it's not a deal breaker for anybody, but what is the dress code like, Josie?
They really just want you to look professional. So here it's not, you don't have to be dressed up fancy, ready to go somewhere. You know, it's just a nice pair of pants, no jeans. We have dress down days on Fridays. So you have colored pants, khakis. It's probably easier for girls because there's more options, but you just get khakis and a nice shirt without wording, or just look at, it's business casual. So just looking professional.
Yeah. Mr. Kilburn, I'm trying to make sure I get to a lot of folks here. I guess, how would you, Mr. Kilburn, describe the culture of the school from the administrative perspective?
So we always, it's a big philosophy of ours to just relationships first. And so as my role as administrator, like I have some discipline issues that we deal with. So a lot of times it's dress code, but we really try to create a rapport with the students. And you know, I'm out in the bus greeting kids in the morning. We used to give high fives and stuff. We don't do that anymore, obviously, but we really try to just make kids feel included. You know, we have diverse views, and we have 16 or so different districts that are represented here, and they all came from different buildings and different teachers. And so a lot of times these new 7th graders are like, they get in here and they just need to feel included. And so we try to build that the first few days. In a typical year, we'd almost have like a camp for like the first 3 days of school. The kids get plugged into their advisories and they meet and greet and do icebreakers and design challenges and all of those things. And so we really just want every kid to feel accepted and feel loved. And that's a big piece that we try to do from day one as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. I think that you'll hear these things like freedoms. There's not a lot of rules that we have that we can continually refer back to. But there's a lot of high expectations for the students. And I think the middle school instructors have done an incredible job of preparing these students for when they go to high school and then beyond as well. I always hear the term or the phrase professional courtesy come up a lot. And so that's like an example, like kids have their cell phones out or they got their earbuds in, you know, it's a professional courtesy to put those things away and then focus on the instructor. And so the philosophy's kind of been like, if we, you know, there are these distractions. And so let's not pretend like they don't exist. Let's try to work with students and come up with coping mechanisms so these distractions do not become debilitating later on when there's not a teacher there saying to put it away. And so that's been a big part of the philosophy of the school as well. I want to jump ahead a little bit because I feel like we'll continue to refer back to this, and I'm going to get Miss Clark, if you could walk us through some things, because we're talking about some courses, and I want to go over some curriculum stuff and talk about, you know, we're going to jump into College Credit Plus and a lot of different opportunities. But if you could, for us, you do a great job of going through just a course sequence of, there's no such thing as a typical student here at Global Impact, but what students could expect with course sequencing and guides here at Global Impact. And I will say to the parents that this information is on the website, and we'll probably throw up a slide or two here as well. So Ms. Clark, I'm going to turn it over to you if you could walk us through that a little bit.
So basically, in middle school, students start out with a core curriculum. That's the actual, you know, the core subjects of social studies, science, math, English, but all of them have an embedded piece that involves things like agriculture, technology, engineering, the applicability of why you would do those things. As we move toward, well, I guess I should say, as we move towards high school, most middle school students, not all, but most, will have their Algebra 1 credit, their English 1 credit, their PE credit, and their World History credit for high school. So they will already have a bump or a jump start onto what typical students out in our community and county have. When they get to the high school, our 9th grade is like a bridge between middle school and high school before we start College Credit Plus classes. The kids are in 5 core areas of classes. They're in a biology class for the whole year, but it also has in it a plant and animal biotechnology class, which is biology on steroids. They get to use the most up-to-date equipment. A lot of the kids say things like they didn't get to use, and now my lights went out too, but they didn't get to use things or types of equipment like that until they went to college, or even in the 2nd year of college. They're in an English 2 class, which is a tested area. They're in government and American history class. They're in a geometry class, and I just finished meeting with every 9th grader that's in our building today, and all of them said the math they love because they're actually using math. They're doing engineering, they're doing 3D printing, they're actually learning geometry, and they're seeing why you learn geometry. They're actually making things and building things, and it makes sense to them. Then when we get at, I think that's about all. I mean, you can kind of read what they are, but when we get to the next stage, they actually get the opportunity to test if they want for College Credit Plus classes. During the sophomore year, we go to blocked classes. They will have the opportunity to take English 1111, which is for college credit and for high school credit. It is taught by one of our teachers, but the best part about that is we actually can kind of watch and baby them into it. But it's English 1111 through Clark State. It's accepted to all state colleges in Ohio and most colleges throughout Ohio. They also at that point have the opportunity to take either American Sign Language or Spanish 1111, which is taught by a Clark State instructor in our building. Most sophomores don't drive. Dr. Pfister has a wonderful opportunity then. She knows these instructors. We can kind of baby them through it to make sure they're handling college classes before we send them out onto the college class. One semester, they'll have an environmental sustainability class. The second semester, they'll have a science and technology of food class. And then on top of all of that, they'll take Algebra 2. From Algebra 2, they'll go to a pre-calc, and then we'll also do some testing in the AccuPlacer to see if they're ready for Math 1280. Math 1280, which is college algebra, is for college credit. It's taught by one of our instructors. We do the first 3 math sequences here: Math 1280, Math 1340, college pre-calc, and Math 2200, which is college calc taught in our building. By junior year, a lot of our students, not all, because not everyone wants to take college classes right away. Some go to CTC junior year, some stay with more traditional high school classes, but some actually start taking their classes right at Clark State. And so I feel really good when a kid graduates from Global Impact and says, I have 60 college hours. They've all set their behinds in a seat in a college classroom on a college campus. They've not sat in high school classes and gotten college credit for, so they actually have some college experience on a college campus doing college things. We do have bioresearch, which Ms. Sanders would talk more about. During their junior year, it's like our culminating science. We take chemistry, we take physical science. We take all the core classes, we do all the core state tests that they make us do, but everything we do has a different twist to it. And our whole goal is to find the best fit for kids. We have seniors right now who really didn't want to go into college, but are taking the welding series at Clark State and have every intent of getting a job in welding or going on to Hobart. We have kids at CTC. We have kids gonna have an associate's degree when they graduate. And we have kids who graduate and want a job, and we're working with them to help them get a job. And we have kids who go right into the military. So I think our programming is very diverse, but also we do have the traditional components.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Dr. Pfister. If you can expand a little bit on the College Credit Plus, like on the average, like how many hours would a student graduate with, you know, and where are they taking those courses? Just elaborate on that a little bit, if you would.
Sure. The one thing I can say is Mrs. Clark and I really try to work with these students individually and put an individual plan together for them, depending on what it is that they truly think that they want to do. If they don't know, we do work with them to try to figure out what it is that they do want to do, or at least have 3 or 4 ideas so that we can build from that as we help them put their classes together. Let me just take last year's graduating class as an example and to give you a little bit of data about that class. There was about 100 students in that class. 93% of those students took college classes. The average number of credit hours that class earned was 41.6. That ranged from 3 credit hours up to 70 credit hours. And we had 23 students out of that group who completed their Associate of Science degree. A lot of students have that Associate of Science as a goal. We just do what we can and measure the ability of what the students can really handle. We want them to be challenged, but we also don't want them to not have a good experience with their college classes. So there's a tightrope balancing act that goes on as students start in these classes. But we do start them slowly, as Mrs. Clark indicated. They're in the building in that protected environment for a little bit before they move out on their own and have that driver's license that allows them to do that. Schools that our students are attending, a majority of them go to Clark State. That's where we start them at. And then after they take their English and their ASL and their math, they can choose to go wherever they want to go. And from there, our students go to Wright State, they go to Sinclair, Columbus State, Ohio State, Wittenberg. That gets most of the schools where we have students at right now, this semester and next semester, for the group of students that as a whole we're working with. We've got Sinclair, Columbus State, Clark State. That's the bulk of where they are right now. They have to get admitted to these institutions. I walk through the process with the students and assist them in getting everything they need to do to get admitted for their College Credit Plus. We do the AccuPlacer under normal circumstances, pre-COVID. Post-COVID, we offer the AccuPlacer in our building. So there's familiar faces assisting those kids in taking the AccuPlacer. Clark State comes over and proctors with us. We've got an excellent relationship with Clark State, and every student is kind of advised by me. They schedule through me. I then work with Clark State to get the schedules put together, so that we know where these students are, what they're taking. And then I also try to work with the instructors. And to give an example, probably in any semester, we've got students taking 100 to 150 different sections of college courses. So I do really good at keeping up with the classes in the building and the instructors and how the students are performing. You get to the rest of those 100 courses that students are taking, and we do a pretty good job with that, but I can't say I'm perfect at knowing where students are with that. A little bit different.
I said you're pretty darn good. I'm sorry I cut you off mid-sentence. This was a good a question that came up that was directly related to that. Do you ever have issues with students not being able to use their CC Plus credits when they graduate and go on to college?
So far, as long as you go to a public Ohio school, and let's use that as the broad first part of the umbrella, public four-year institution in the state of Ohio, the way I have their program set up is everything will transfer. And that's coming from the background that I had while I was at Ohio State. That's a little cheating factor for me, but I was pretty familiar with the transfer credits that students brought into Ohio State. And so I worked with a lot of different colleges as a part of that. So I'm really, I really try to make sure that the classes are going to transfer. If the students know where they want to go, we work specifically with that institution, especially if it's a private school. And then we're working with their admissions department specifically for this, between the student and myself and them, versus a public Ohio school. Most of our kids will come back. Really, we've not had anybody with that associate's degree that has come back and said my credits didn't count. So if they're looking at an associate's degree is 60 hours, a bachelor's degree is 120 hours. So the students are leaving here with half of their bachelor's degree done, which gives them a lot of flexibility as to what they can do when they get to that baccalaureate institution and how they spend their time. And they can jump into their major courses because we've done a lot of the sophomore and freshman classes are already done.
And I'll say, if you also get on our website, you'll be able to see examples of the colleges and universities and some data of where our students have been going and where they're attending post-graduation as well. One of the things I want to get, because we're blowing through time here, and I want to make sure I've got time to hit on a little bit of everything for folks. You know, we talk about the agricultural based aspect of who we are as a school and where we find our, I guess, our relevance and what we do. And so there is this question that comes up every once in a while from parents. It's, my son or daughter doesn't have an ag background. They are, you know, not going necessarily into an agriculture career. Is this school still a good fit for them, and can it be a good fit for them? And I'll really open it up to anybody. I think maybe Gracie, even as a student, you can answer that. I'm not sure if you're going into an ag field or not, but
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this.
go ahead.
Yeah, so when I came to Global Impact, I knew it was a FFA. I knew it enrolled all of the students into FFA. And when you are enrolled into the FFA program, you don't have to be an active member. I at first thought that I was like, no, FFA is not for me. Like I don't have a farm, kind of like the stereotypical thinking with FFA, but it's definitely a lot more. And I learned that FFA is not, oh, you have to have a farm, you have to show animals. It's much more than that. Obviously, that can be a component that you can use to your advantage. A lot of people show animals and projects through FFA and 4-H, but also FFA does a lot with leadership and career, preparing you for your career. So a lot of the things that I like, since I'm not really involved with the showing animals or anything, I like the competitions that they involve and they have. So like they have job interview, which is a competition that has really nothing to do with agriculture. It's basically to prepare you for job fields, and it teaches you how to make a cover letter, how to interview skills, and how to write a follow-up. Those core soft skills that you need once you start getting to that age where you can start applying for jobs and going to interviews, interviewing for colleges, stuff like that. And also they have a lot to do with science. So they have a lot of competitions with science. So I did some food science competitions that I like, and they have we did one last year, which was the first year they had a biotechnology competition. So it's not just, farming and animals. There's a lot to do with building leadership, building soft skills, and also a lot with the science curriculum too.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned a lot of FFA, which we'll talk about student organizations here in a bit too. I know, Ms. Clark, you track where a lot of these students go. Talk about the decisions they're making. We're in ag, we have this ag-based focus. You went through those courses. Where do you see these students go? Is it a good fit for a student who's not necessarily looking to go into the agriculture field?
Definitely. Because we're teaching all of these soft skills, high-tech skills, but we've had kids who want to major in music, but just learn different and want to learn different. We've had kids who want to go in the military, and we have kids who want to farm. We have kids who were opened to new possibilities. They wanted to be an engineer, but they never thought about engineering for types of farm equipment. They wanted to go into some kind of science, but they never thought about being a geneticist or a plant geneticist or a soil scientist. And so I think they get exposed to so many different kinds of things that they didn't know was out there. I'm old compared to most people that are even watching this thing today, but when I graduated from high school, women became teachers or nurses, or they stayed at home for the most part. I didn't know there were all those jobs. And if you look at the job market from when I started teaching until now, the number of jobs that are available, it's tremendous. We don't even know the jobs these kids will have, but we're preparing them for whatever their passion is.
I also want to talk about, and I don't mean to jump all over the place here a little bit, but I want to make sure I get some key things in here before we run out of time. One of which is the student fit. Is it a good fit for my child? And I'm actually going to have Mr. Jones and Ms. Trumanbach speak to this too. A lot of times, Ms. Trumanbach, I'll start with you. They talk about, we get this, at least we hear, people talk about a STEM school, it must be for just gifted and talented students. If you can speak to that in terms of the variety of students that we have, students who maybe receive some special education services, are they a good fit at our school? How are those students served? You're in charge of our special education here. Can you speak to that maybe a little bit?
Absolutely. I always tell people that I think any student that can come here that wants to work hard and just push themselves, no matter what your ability level is, you can do that. Obviously, it's not a fit for everyone, but if you're willing to work hard and give your best effort all the time, you can do that. We have an intervention specialist for the 7th and 8th grade, Mr. Bisher. He is new this year, and so he handles all of our full inclusion for our junior high. Miss Sarenson is our high school intervention specialist, and she handles all of our services for those students. We actually have about 40 students in grades 7 through 12 that get service through special education IEPs. And then we have about 50 students who are serviced through 504s in grades 7 through 12. And so we have students all over in regards to ability and working in our general education classroom. They do offer small group testing and some other supports as needed based on the students' IEPs. But I had a question earlier. We do service IEPs. We like to meet with those families once they've made that decision that they want to apply and they've been accepted. We meet with them before the school year starts. We read over that IEP, talk about what accommodations or modifications need to be adjusted, and then go from there and try to transition students successfully as we can.
Awesome. Mr. Jones, sorry I haven't got to you. I want to make sure I get your perspective as a middle school counselor working with these students. What would you say makes a student a good fit at Global Impact? Very general statement, or very general question, but how would you describe what makes a student a good fit at GISA?
Sure. What I would say makes a student a good fit at GISA, first of all, I think it's important that the student wants to attend GISA. I found that if parents are pushing their kids to come to GISA, it's probably not going to be a good fit. The kids going to have to buy in. The kids going to want to attend GISA. It's also very important that the kid's coachable, right? There's going to be opportunities where they excel, but there's also going to be opportunities where they're going to fail, and they're going to have to bounce back, and they're going to have to get better as a result of that. Also, kids that excel at GISA are goal-oriented. And they ask for help. The students that don't typically ask for help, they kind of fall behind, and the work starts to snowball on them. And then that's when, I come in and I, try to motivate them. We set up plans, but those are some of the main reasons, or some of the main things that help students along. Also, we collaborate a lot at GISA. So if there's students that don't like to collaborate, it's probably not going to be a great fit either. Obviously, we can work with them on that. The teachers, they're great. They're very innovative. They're very creative. They're very friendly. And so, what I like about GISA is, as far as a fit, is we have kids coming from all different districts. So there's not going to be these established cliques as soon as they get there. Everybody's kind of going to, everybody's kind of new. Everybody's kind of want to feel their way out, but we kind of help build them and help get them in a nurturing environment, by all the different projects and all the different work that we set up for them.
You talk about that collaboration piece. That certainly is, you have some students that may not like to collaborate, but that's a skill that has to be built, right? Along the way, and teaching some of those social aspects that come along with, doing collaborative work. And I've seen you do amazing things with that. I'll also ask the question, what are some of the things that you've seen students maybe struggle with a little bit, and how they overcome that, or how you work with them? I want to make sure that our parents and those here don't, there are some challenges, obviously, that students have. It's a very rigorous, fast-paced type of environment. But, what are some of the things that you've seen that have been challenges in overcoming those challenges too?
Some of the main challenges I see, especially initially when we start the year, it's just there's a lot of anxiety. I mean, these students are coming into a new building with new teachers. There's new students. They're just trying to find their way. So there's some initial anxiety. I help them through. We do, there's a lot of times where I have students who are initially suffering with a lot of anxiety. I have them paired up with other students to kind of, that way at least they have a buddy initially. Some other things that students struggle with a lot initially is, the time management pieces. Some may struggle initially out the gate because GISA is a rigorous school. But once we get their academic game plan down, as far as, coming up with setting an agenda, setting those reminders, once again, that time management piece, things start to come together. But those are the two main things that I see initially with students.
Very good. What about, early on? Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Jones also does a lot. Like, he comes into the classrooms as well too, and so he's done that recently. Just embedding some of his, counseling, just methods and strategies, and sharing those with the kids. And so he meets with them frequently. He also gets into the classroom and makes himself familiar with the students. And so it's been one of those things where he's very proactive in trying to address those issues that arise when you're coming to a new place. And so it's been really good for those students as they struggle. They always have someone to fall back on and lean on to for help.
Very good. One of the big concerns that students have coming here, from their district or where they've been, is friends, right? And so I think that the number one apprehension, I think we could probably all agree on for anybody that works here, students, I really, really, really want to come. I really, really, really don't want to leave my friends. So I want to have the students give perspective on this, but first I'm going to ask Dr. Hess, from a parent perspective, what have you seen from your own kids? Did they have some of these same, apprehensions? How's that worked out? How have you seen their social, network develop?
It's been interesting for me, especially having my eldest daughter start in 8th grade, and we've now moved into 11th grade. So there's been a huge growth, right, in that span of time between middle school and high school. And while there always was sort of that little bit of a pull back to our school district of residence where my kids had attended, the nice thing is that there's still lots of opportunity for the kids to still connect with their school that they had attended previously. My oldest daughter played soccer and was able to still play soccer at her home school while she was attending here. So for her, that was a really nice way to still stay connected to the kids that she was friends with and had been on a team with for years. So that was always a really, that's always been a nice way for her to still, have that little bit of a touch point with people that she had grown up with traditionally and had gone to school with. But in addition to that, expanding her network of people that she has met and become friends with, kids that she would never ever probably have associated with before, because they're from such a diverse group of people, sort of far reaching as far as different districts and different counties even. So for my kids, it's really been a nice way for them to just get to know a bunch of more people that are different than they are, and I think both of my girls have really enjoyed that component for sure.
Gracie, how about you? How would you describe the friend apprehension?
I think it's definitely something that crosses, everyone's mind when they're leaving such a comfortable space that they've been in for a long time and grown up with those people and friends. Just like Ms. Hess said, a lot of students still stay connected with their home schools. Like, I was involved in marching band and a couple of clubs, including Crick Recall at Northeastern. And so that was a way for me to stay connected with all of my friends and share that special interest, whether it be in marching band or another sport or club. I think a lot of people go through that anxiety about leaving their friends, or what are my friends going to think if I leave? I think it's just a part of kind of, letting them know, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, I want to pursue, going to STEM, and just having a conversation with your friends, talking about it, and it all works out in the end. Technology, you can FaceTime, message, hang out all the time still. So I think as a student, I still feel connected to everyone at my homeschool.
Josie, how about you? Your friends, you've developed new relationships that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. What would you say to a student who's apprehensive and afraid about losing or just leaving their friends?
Yes, I've definitely had people who have really wanted to come to the school but been apprehensive because they don't want to leave their friends. I think GISA gives you a really good opportunity to build relationships that you wouldn't otherwise have. A lot of people that I've met have decided to come for a blank slate. You meet new people, you get another opportunity to build relationships with people, and you still have opportunities to connect through sports or other connections with your home school. Our people worry about and have anxiety, like Mr. Jones had referred to earlier, about not having that core group of friends when you come to GISA. And in 7th grade, when I had attended my first time, the first couple days were devoted to meeting new people and building relationships. When you don't really have anyone to talk to, it can be scary, but it can also be exciting because it's just another opportunity to meet new people and learn from others the experiences that they have had and that you can learn from.
Awesome. We've mentioned, and we're running a little short on time here, so I'm going to just hit on a few other things. I was going to have Ms. Trumenbach go through. We have a one-pager that's on our website that references some frequently asked questions as it relates to your district or residence. One of the things we want to stress to all the parents, because, athletics are a very important part of a student's experience. And so those are done at the district or residence. What I'll say is that may not be the school you're attending right now. In Clark County, you may be a student that resides in Springfield City, but you've been open enrollment to Clark Shawnee since you've been, maybe in kindergarten. So you're not eligible to participate in athletics, let's say at Clark Shawnee, because you're a resident of Springfield City. And so that's an important thing to remember. And I would also just stress that if you have some specific questions about that before you make a decision and you just want some clarification, call in here and ask for Ms. Trumenbach. She will walk you through all that. And some of the other things that are on here: graduation, you receive a diploma from Global Impact. When you enroll at Global Impact, you are officially unenrolling at the district that you're currently attending. It also goes on here to talk about some things that students get involved in, such as dances and marching band, plays and musicals, and CTC. CTC is a great opportunity. We have a number of students that go to the Career Center. Sometimes it can get a little tricky if you want to be a part-time student there and a part-time student here. Just ask that if CTC is something that right now you want to participate in and seek for your options or opportunities, also call and talk to Ms. Trumenbach, and she can certainly walk you through just some of the things that we've seen with our students with that. Just give you some advice on that piece too, and then how that relates to Global Impact. And then some quick logistics things. There is transportation provided by districts and residents, certainly for all the schools that are in Clark County. And we have schools outside of Clark County even that send bus. I know Urbana does. Actually, Urbana may be the only one right now that does, but we have students coming as far away, Madison Plains, and quite a few from Graham. I think there's 7 counties we actually have students in right now. A district in the state of Ohio has to do one of 2 things. They have to provide you transportation to your educational choice, or give you a payment in lieu of for you to get to that on your own. I'd say the majority of our out of county, probably their parents bring them here. We have a lot of parents that work in Springfield. Maybe they drop their students off and then pick them up after work. We have a really regular school day. It's from 7:45 to 2:30 for all of our students. And we have a pretty just standard school calendar. We would like to get creative with our school calendar, but it's important to us that our school calendar as close as possible reflects that of all the other schools in our county, so that we can line up spring breaks, our start and end dates, Christmas breaks, and all those type of things. You'll find that those calendars are almost identical to all the other schools in the county, maybe minus a few days or so. And then the last thing, I certainly would love to get into more project examples and have these teachers explain maybe what their favorite projects have been, but you can see some of the examples of those projects even on our website. We have a projects page where we highlight a few of those. We try to do an expo night every fall and spring to where we invite the entire community in. Part of the project-based learning and what we do is creating an authentic audience for our students to be able to share their work. And so that's inviting community members in and parents and really putting their work on display. And we really see the quality of work when there has to be somebody other than a teacher that they're sharing it with, just really rise. And so a number of these projects are cross-curricular, multidisciplinary projects where, you know, they're getting a grade in every class that they take for a different component of these projects. And so explore some of those. We described the project, maybe put some resources on. Certainly, I think as we've evolved as a school, they become more and more elaborate. And right now it's becoming challenging, but we'll be out of this phase, hopefully sooner than later, and back to normal for us as a school where we do a lot of these things and open our building up to the community for people to see. The other big thing is the admissions and the lottery process. The lottery guidelines that the board's approved are on our website. And so you can find that under prospective students as well. If you have any problems finding any of these things, you can contact the school and we'll walk you through it. The biggest thing, we have the lottery eligibility here. You need to, even if you're a sibling of a current student, everybody needs to apply. And they need to do so by January 15th. And so January 15th, by the end of the day, those applications close. We go through the applications submitted, making sure that we have no outstanding questions. If we do, we reach out to those applicants and get all that clarified. And then everybody who's submitted an application between November 12th and January 15th at that point is eligible for the lottery. Every student's assigned a number. You'll get a letter with your unique number on that. And we send those numbers with no identifying information about the students onto a local counting firm here in Clark County who performs that lottery for us every year. They do a random number generator. They send that back, and then we rank all the students, one through however many students applied during that window. The first 120 are the students that are slated and accepted. And I will tell you that there is movement in that because some families decide not to attend. Most of that's over the summer. They get the apprehensions of friends and so forth that we talked about. Maybe they decide not to come. And so we just keep moving up with those students who are alternates on that list. Anybody who applies after the January 15th deadline, their application is considered in which the order in which it is received. I will tell you this, we have no idea how many applicants that we'll have this year. It's a little different situation that we're all facing in the pandemic and not having parents and prospective students in the building. So we don't know where we'll end up and how many students we'll ultimately have for the lottery. I will tell you in years past, we've had as many as 250 students apply in the lottery for 120 spots. And it's been, 200 students. And so, what that'll be this year could be more, it could be less based upon what parents and families are experiencing right now. And so just want to make sure that we've gone over that and the entire process for it. And like I said, with anything that you have, call the school and ask questions. We didn't touch on a lot of things, but I really hate to go more than 90 minutes on something like this as everybody starts zoning out. Probably your eyes are glazing over, even though I can't see you at this point, I'm sure, but you can always this will be archived on Facebook. We'll try to post it on our website maybe as well. I'll work with our tech support here tonight in all those spaces that this will be available for you later on. But like I said, I can't stress enough, call with questions. Some of the things we didn't hit on are things like student resources. There's no tuition to attend Global Impact. It's a free public school. There are some student fees that are associated with attending, but they're related to our technology devices that students lease from us each year. Our upperclassmen have been receiving MacBook Airs, and this year our incoming 7th graders received iPads with the crayon that goes with it. And so we did a transition with our technology based upon what was available through Apple. And I think you'll find that when coming here, you won't be asked to bring a box of tissues and sanitizing wipes and crayons and, you know, all these different supplies. We really feel as though that we have all those things that the students need and the resources that the students need when they get here to be able to support the projects and things that we ask them to do and get involved in. We really want to stretch students. We want to, you know, get them as far as they can and grow them as much as possible. And we have we worked a year and a half ago and got all of our stakeholders involved to kind of just define so that we could explain to prospective families and community members, you know, what the qualities a Global Impact STEM Academy graduate has. And what came from that was 5 major qualities, and it was that they were an effective communicator, they were a multidisciplinary collaborator, creative and critical thinker, a self-motivated achiever, and they had diversified worldviews. And those are really things that we want to see our students lead with. I know there was a question early on, and I'm getting ready to wrap this up, and I'm already 5 minutes over. You probably heard us talk about the study abroad opportunities. Dr. Pfister's, can you do a 2-minute spiel on that, Dr. Pfister, so we can address that question that came up?
Sure. We do a trip a year, at least one trip a year. We started doing one every other year, but we've progressed to now every year. We've been to Costa Rica and 2 groups to Belize. Last year we were supposed to go to Iceland. This year we're supposed to be going to Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. Last year to Iceland. Everything happened about a week before we left for that. So that got canceled, and we're not really sure what is going to happen for this trip. They usually are in March or the beginning of the summer. Primarily it's for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, maybe 9th grade. The middle schoolers go to Washington, D.C. And it's usually a week to 10 days long, and it's teachers will go with them, and we work with Education First, which is our consultant for help us planning the trips. They've been really successful. The kids have really enjoyed them. We miss kind of going. We've had good participation. We had 30 registered to go to Iceland last year, and I've got 39 to go on the trip this spring. I'm trying to think where we're going next year, and I'm drawing a complete blank.
Well, I think you give an idea, I think, and really answer this question. It goes into the diverse worldviews, I think, aspect too. And a lot of times there's a lot of themes associated with this. And Dr. Pfister has been the one that's coordinated that on behalf of Global Impact. She's also coordinates a program we have. It's a Global Scholars program that's through the Columbus Council on World Affairs, which is just another opportunity for students to gain additional perspectives and culture and have more diverse worldviews. And there's just a number of different activities and organizations here that we strongly believe in. I think that our students can gain additional experiences, whether it's taking electives like art or whether it's becoming involved in the FFA organization, which is, there's so much to that organization that we could go on for 90 minutes just on that. And things like our 4-H club that we have, as well as our gaming club and esports has become a huge, just very popular program and club for our students, where they're getting scholarships for esports. But a lot of things that we're really proud of that have been student driven, student developed, but for the purpose of giving the students the most well-rounded I guess, experience as possible. And we're always open to new things. Last year, we started a ski club for the first time with some parents that we've had that took that on for us. And so we appreciated that. So I know we certainly probably did not answer maybe all of your questions. We've been doing this we've gone over. I try to stay to a schedule as best I can. Quite possible we'll reassess here after tonight and see if we want to do something else to provide some additional opportunities to gain information. We are restricted in how we can deliver some of this stuff this year, and that's unfortunate, but I want everybody to know that we're available, and we'll take whatever time's needed we can do a video conferencing with you and your family, a phone call with you and your family, whatever we can do to answer the questions that you would have as it's related to attending Global Impact. What I'll say is, though, if you're on the fence and you're thinking about applying or not applying, apply. Once you come into the building and we set up an opportunity for you to tour and you get some questions answered, you can always decide not to come, and that's fine. But after the lottery's been completed, you can't decide at that time that you want in the lottery and you want to attend. And so I would just encourage everybody to apply, even if they're on the fence. And we're available for any questions that you may have. And so I'll just conclude with that. I appreciate our panelists. Thank you for joining us here this evening. To our students, our teachers, our parents, administrators who are here. I just really appreciate your time, and to our attendees, the ones watching from home right now who registered for the event. I appreciate you taking the time to be a part of this and learning more about our school. And so with that, thanks again, and go Geese.